Welcome to Tuesday's reading and reflection as we continue this week to follow Jesus in the final few days leading up to his crucifixion and resurrection. In a moment's time, the reference for today's passage is going to come up on the screen. Quite a lengthy passage for you to read today, so I'd encourage you at that point maybe to pause this video and take time to read the passage if you haven't already had opportunity to do so today. And then after that, Gareth Parker's going to share with us his reflection on today's reading.
That's not fair. Have you ever heard that being said before? Bet you have. Maybe it's on the lips of a child whose sibling is playing with a toy that they so desperately need in their lives right now. That's not fair. Maybe it's on the lips of a loyal sports fan who is unhappy with the call that the ref just made in the big game. That's not fair. We hear it in all sorts of contexts. And maybe in a more serious note, maybe the things that happen in our own lives and the lives of people around us or in the world in general, we see things and it makes us say that's not fair. The crimes in which man commits against another, the acts of injustice that are committed against entire people groups, and we think to ourselves, that's not fair. Our passage today is substantial, and I want you to read it all in your own time when you get a chance. But I'm going to be focusing on chapter 20, verses 9 to 18. And it's perhaps one of Jesus' more crushing parables. The story goes of a man who owned a vineyard, and he rents it out to tenants. Now, when the time comes for the first fruits to be collected, he sends a servant to the tenants in order to redeem those first fruits. But the tenants, not in the mood for sharing, they beat the servant up and send him away empty-handed. Now this happens 3 times. 3 times a servant gets sent, he gets beaten up by the tenants, and he leaves with nothing. Well, the 4th time the landowner decides to take drastic measures, and so he sends his beloved son in the hope that the tenants will respect him and do the honourable thing. But the tenants don't see it that way. Instead, they see an opportunity, and what they do is they kill the son in the hope that they might gain the inheritance for themselves. And as you can imagine, the owner of the vineyard isn't too happy, and he tracks them down, throws them out of the vineyard, and kills them, and gives the land to others. What is Jesus saying here in this rather grim tale? Well, he's particularly speaking into his own context, and he's calling out the religious leaders on how they have acted greedily with what has been entrusted to them, and indeed how they're even plotting against him, the Son of God himself. He's not pulling any punches when he tells them that judgment is coming for them. But I also believe there's a greater story being told here as well, because all across the world today we see things that remind us of this parable. There are people that God has entrusted with good things to share with others, and they are failing to do so. They are acting with greed, with dishonesty, and even with malice. But this parable points to a day whenever the Father, the Lord of the vineyard, will return, and he will repay those people who have committed such atrocities in the way that they should be paid. And to those who have acted justly, loved mercy, and walked humbly before him, he will embrace. He will rise up in the end. That's not fair. This life isn't fair sometimes. But praise God that a day is coming when the Father will return and restore all things to the way they should be. Every wrong will be made right. Every lie will be outed. Every serpent will have its head crushed beneath his feet. And it also points to what Jesus was about to do as well, because just a few days later he was going to become the first fruits of this uprising by rising from the dead And the fact that he's alive today shows that the plots and the schemes of the tenants will be overturned. That the injustice we see in the world today will not last forever, and that death does not have the final say. We will rise up in the end. Praise God. Why not pray today towards the end of this injustice that we see in the world? Pray that we would have the strength to live godly lives in the midst of the evil we see around us, and give thanks that God is a fair and just God who is patient in his anger, and he has a plan set in place to make all things new.